if you haven't noticed, the airlines, which the airline industry is one of the biggest industries in America. That's why, as part of COVID, before we bailed out actual human beings, the government bailed out the airlines, right? So the airline industry is big. There were mass layoffs in the airline industry at the beginning of this pandemic, and the airlines got bailed out. And as part of those layoffs, you had a lot of flight attendants laid off, pilots laid off, support staff laid off, et cetera, et cetera. Then we found out that, oh boy, there seems to be quite a flurry of airline CEOs really begging the Capitalist Defense Center, the CDC, the Capitalism Defense Center, the CDC, to change its rules to basically abandon science and just say, hey, if you have COVID, you only have to wait 5 days to isolate. Even though testing is different for everybody, everybody's different. Some people, they're negative after 5 days. Some people, they are still positive after 12 days. And what they did was basically allow people to come back to work and spread the virus to coworkers and, flight people who take flights, customers. So now we're seeing, Steve, a pretty big pilot shortage, which is leading to, say it with me, fly at your own risk airlines. You think I'm being funny, but that's basically what we're dealing with. U.S. airlines are so desperate for pilots, they are dropping some requirements and considering cutting training hours to get more pilots flying sooner. As the pilot shortage continues to rock the airline industry, carriers are struggling to fulfill their flight schedules, and some are even trying to reduce required training hours to get more pilots in the air. On May 13th, Alaska Airlines CEO apologized in a YouTube video for continued flight cancellation that had been plaguing the carrier. Minucci blamed the pilot shortage, saying, quote, "We had 63 fewer pilots than what we had planned for when we built our schedule, which causes a ripple effect. By the time we caught this error, April and May schedules were bid on by our pilots and flight attendants, making it impossible to sufficiently adjust schedules to avoid cancellations. Seattle-based carrier is just one example of airlines struggling to find enough pilots to handle the busy post-pandemic travel surge." Gotta love how they've declared it post-pandemic, as we have a massive spike right now in cases in the Northeast, and now it's spreading in the South. According to Bloomberg, Delta Airlines, American Airlines, and United Airlines have cut regional flying in recent months due to the shortage, with United grounding 100 regional planes. And then let's move on to that progressive Senator Lindsey Graham. In addition to reduced training and education requirements, Senator Lindsey Graham could propose a bill that will increase the mandatory pilot retirement age from 65 to 67. Airline Weekly reported the move would be an attempted fix to the shortage, allowing pilots to stay on with their company. So, Steve, I call bullshit on this. I don't really know many multi-billion-dollar companies that have mass flight cancellations because of a scheduling fuck up. That doesn't sound believable to me. You and I were talking off air about this. We won't get into details, but we have a source with one of these airlines basically saying, yeah, no, there's a shit ton of people out with COVID. And there's the policy for this airline essentially is to dock you points for every time you call in with COVID. So that's just one major airline. So if that's happening with flight attendants, it's not like pilots don't get sick too. So how much of this is COVID is not totally resulting in, not all the pilot shortage is due to actual people sick, but COVID in general has caused a massive shortage. And the airline's response is, obviously they're not letting like a guy at a hot dog stand fly the plane, but I don't know. I think you want the most training possible if you're getting on an airline. I think you want people with all their faculties, not to say 67-year-olds don't have their faculties, but this is not an area where you want to cut corners flying.
No, so, I do have a very good friend who is high up in the union of one of the major airlines, and he spoke at length with me offline. I sent some key points over for this discussion. One of the most important things somebody's asking in the chat, and rightfully so, why is there a shortage of pilots? And so for a long, long time, they have known this day was coming. there's a hard cutoff. You must retire by the age of 65. That's why they're talking about extending it to 67. However, they've known for a very long time that they were going to run out of pilots. And the problem is that people are like in the junior varsity down in the local regional flying. And they get crap for pay. The pay that they get, diminishes in between, like all the time they're spending. It's not like they get to bill out one consistent rate. They get a bill for flying, or a rate for flying, a rate for going between planes, a rate for sleepovers. They got rates all over the place, and translates down to one of the guys said some of the regional pilots are as low as like $9 an hour. And so they have known for a very, very long time that the mandatory retirement age was going to crush them. They also understand that there is a huge lead time in terms of training that has to be maintained constantly to be able to keep your pilot license, and even for attendants as well as people that work on the planes. They have stringent requirements that they've got to keep so many hours up, so many training, and if they lapse, they've got to work really, really hard. It takes a long time to get yourself back to where you're fit to fly. So they've known this for a very, very long time. Shit pay, shit conditions, the mandatory retirement age, and the fact that the people, the bench, are not willing to sit around in the regional zones and just wait and wait and wait for an opening up top. So what ends up happening is they quit and they move on and they go on to something else, or they get old and retire. And literally, this is the problem. Companies, if you did any business training, you should have known, guys. American, United, all you airlines out there should know unequivocally that in a downturn, that is when you restock, reload, train, get ready for the next upload. You always, always, always take that downturn to train your staff to get them ready to rock and roll to handle the next boom. And they didn't do that. They tried to be lean and mean. They cut people. And quite frankly, it's coming back to bite them. It's a huge racket. And I can't imagine, being stuck on that kind of local regional flying and have such shitty conditions. It's no wonder they're quitting, and it's no wonder that they can't retain them because they have a mandatory cutoff at 65. So that's what's happening.
Right. And Colin, that PDF that I sent you, I just want to read from this part. But this was a letter the Flight Attendants Association of Professional Flight Attendants said to Schumer during the pandemic, early on in the pandemic. Due to our company's punitive attendance policy, our members are afraid to call in sick and instead go to work out of fear of disciplinary action, potentially spreading the virus to their coworkers and passengers. Our industry is currently overstaffed, so there's no reason why even potentially sick flight attendants should leave their homes. There ought to be no considerations other than public safety when deciding if we are fit to come to work. While testing is scarce, we must take these proper precautions to curb the spread of the virus. So, bottom line, I don't want to get into a whole COVID discussion because there's a lot of people who, it's like, earmuffs and blah, 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 like COVID's over, even though it's not. I mean, if you actually look close enough, the whole idea that, this whole like Omicron and all their subvariants are mild. I mean, it might be mild for a good portion of people. For a lot of people, it's causing long-term disability. And we're not talking about older people. We're talking about people in their 30s, 40s. There's more data now coming out about long COVID. So I agree with you that the airlines industry, particularly the corporations, screwed themselves. But to me, the fact of the matter that you have these airlines basically making it a penalty, and it's not just airlines, by the way, other corporations have done this kind of underground, making it a penalty if you call in sick with COVID and docking you to the point of termination. That's just going to continue to spread this far and wide, including it's not going to be seasonal anymore. It's not going to be like, all right, we expect it to get really bad in the fall and winter. It's going to be year round. I mean, Delta spread heavily during the summer in 2021. And we know that these subvariants now, which we're probably going to see a big spike because of Memorial Day, everyone getting together. So, yeah, I mean, I don't know the answer. All I know is the airlines, like most of corporate America, has totally disregarded worker safety and their own customer safety. And I understand people need to fly, people need to get places. But to me, the compromise was wearing a mask on a plane. And since that's been gone, I mean, you're going to see a lot more of this, a lot more of flight attendant shortages. Obviously, it's not all because people are sick. You listed a lot of the reasons for the pilot shortage, but the continued spread of COVID, airlines play a big part, in my opinion.
Yeah, I'm just going to throw my socialist credentials out. We should be nationalizing the damn airline industry. We shouldn't be privatizing it. The reason why we have these problems is because they're living and dying on ticket prices. When the federal government could take it over right now, run it, the cost would be irrelevant to everybody else, and the safety could become number one. Our government sucks right now, so it's kind of but it doesn't have to suck, right? I mean, the idea of allowing this to ride on the idea of profit and making decisions based on profit, when you have extreme need for a focus on safety, makes no sense to me whatsoever. I mean, this is either a national need, and I'm not sure it is, but it's either a national need or it's not, and there's just too much riding on it to keep allowing it to constantly be subsidized, revived, subsidized by the federal government, and instead of just taking the damn thing over and making it lean and mean. And when I say lean and mean, I'm not talking about cutting things. I mean making it go without all the bullshit, the capitalist bullshit that drives for profit. Freaking just
Right.
make the damn thing national and be done.
Hallelujah. And by the way, we haven't even mentioned, what do you think they're going to be
Yes, more
canceling?
government. I am a big C, baby. Don't even worry about it. S, you big S, capital S, central planning. I'm all that. Yes, bring it on. Yes,
But
absolutely. Don't even
but
worry about it.
you know what we haven't discussed? Obviously, they're not going to keep canceling hundreds of flights. At some point, they're just going to be like, "Hey, pilot Rick, you got another three in you? You got another three in you today?
We
You
see
got
that with
another?"
EMTs right now. They've got, I'm not going to mention his name, but there's a gentleman that's probably watching this right now that is put on 36-hour shifts driving goddamn ambulances. I mean,
Right.
36-hour shifts. Yeah, I mean, I'm telling you, man, capitalism blows. It's just a real big, it's a bullet in the head, man. It really is. It's a bad deal. We should be doing everything we can to friggin' stop this.
Thanks for watching, and make sure to tune in to Status Coup's daily live stream Monday through Thursday at 5 o'clock Eastern Time and Fridays at 4 o'clock Eastern Time.